Back to Investments 101 for segment number 14. As I said at the end of the previous segment, we've covered quite a bit of material so far, and your knowledge is rather extensive. So it is time for us to put all of this new knowledge to good use with an example. You work hard, you do some overtime, and you've been doing this for quite a while. And you suddenly realize that you've got money that's been piling up in your checking account. Like you're not spending all the money that you're making. And there's now $10,000 sitting in your checking account. And you wonder if you should invest it. Very good idea. But before we go, there's a few things to consider. The first one. Do you have any debts? And if so, should you use the $10,000 to repay those debts? Or should you keep the debts and invest the $10,000? So that's the question. I have a trick for you, but it requires that you be honest with yourself. What kind of investor are you? If you were to invest the money, what kind of return could you expect? If you're rather conservative and 5 or 6% is pretty much what an investment would do for you, then we're going to use that number as a reference. So if the debts that you carry have an interest rate that is higher than that number, so if your debts are higher than 5 or 6% per year, then you should repay your debts. So that's very simple. If you carry debts and they're higher than what an investment can do for you, pay the debts off. I'm specifically referring here to credit card debt. Credit card debt comes with interest rate at 20, 25, and sometimes 30%. There's absolutely no way you can find an investment that will generate a return that's high enough to justify keeping the debt. Because remember, the return has to be there year after year after year. There's no such thing out there. So this one is an easy one. If you carry credit card debts, you should never invest while you have some of those. So pay them off. Pay all of them off. So that's the first thing to consider. Second thing. You may not have credit card debts, but you may have a mortgage. Should you put that money against your mortgage? Another good question, and we use the same trick. As I'm taping this in the spring of 2022, mortgage rates are slowly climbing, but they're still in the range of 3.5%, which is historically very low. So if we said that a 5 to 6% return, which is somewhat conservative, is what an investment could generate for you, then it is probably a good idea to leave your mortgage alone. Don't touch it. Keep making your payments. Your interest rate is kind of low. Take the $10,000 and invest it. So that's second thing to consider. Third and final one. Do you have any short-term plans for that money? By that I mean, were you going to buy a car or make a down payment on a cottage or something in the near future, 2 to 3 years? And if the answer is yes, I'm not sure if investing is such a great idea, because markets are unpredictable, and yes, there are negative years out there. So if you're unlucky and you happen to invest your money and you hit a negative stretch, it would be too bad to lose money. Say for example, your $10,000 drops to $9,000, like a bad year, you lost 10%. I mean, this could happen. It'd be too bad to lose some of your money, which could potentially prevent you from going ahead with your plan. So if you have short-term plans, think about it twice. Maybe it would be safer just leave the money where it's at, and at least it will be there when you need it. And that was the third thing to consider. So now we've established that you don't have high interest debts, that if you do have a mortgage, the interest rate is low, and that you have no short-term plans for your money. It's a long-term investment. We're talking 5, 10, 15, 20 years that you could leave the money there. So it's a good thing to consider investing. And for this, two scenarios. You're young, starting your career, you're in your mid to late 20s, and the second one will be you're in your mid 40s. So let's start with the first one. You're beginning your career. And for this, we're going back to the income tax pyramid. You are currently near the bottom of the pyramid in your career. If things go well, 15, 20, 30 years from now, you could be at the very top. So while you're in the lower brackets, it is always a good idea to try to save any RRSP contribution that you've got. So, opening a tax-free savings account could be the thing for you. And this is where we switch to my garage. If you recall, we have 3 doors for investing. Tax-free savings account, door 3, RRSP, door 4, and door number 5, the taxable account that I said you should forget while you have room in the other 2. So since you're young and you're beginning, we talked about the tax-free savings account. So you now need to get in touch with a financial institution and you tell them that it is a tax-free savings account that you want to open. When that is done, the account is empty. There's nothing in it. Next thing you need to do is you need to transfer your money from your checking account into your tax-free savings account. And when that is done, the money is still sleeping. It was sleeping in your checking account. It is sleeping in your tax-free savings account. You need to invest it. You need to buy financial products. So that's what is important to understand is you need, once the money is in, don't leave it there. You got to buy either some stocks, some bonds, some mutual funds, some ETFs, a portfolio solution, but you need to buy something. So that's the first scenario. We go with the tax-free savings account. Second scenario, you're in your mid-40s. You've climbed, we're going back to the pyramid. You've climbed in the pyramid, but it is becoming very obvious to you that you will never reach the top. And chances are, given your age and where you're at professionally, the odds are small that the salary you will make 2, 3, 5 years from now is going to be a whole lot higher than what you're making today. That may be the time for you to consider an investment into an RRSP. You haven't touched it yet. You've always saved your contribution, so there's all kinds of room there. Well, that's probably where your $10,000 should go. And here's how you're going to do it. Same scenario, you still need to go to a financial institution. And this time, we're going to get you to open 2 accounts. You open an RRSP and you open a tax-free savings account. The 2 of them are empty. Now you take your $10,000 from your checking account and you transfer it into the RRSP. Opening an RRSP and opening a tax-free savings account can be compared to playing cards. When you decide on the account that you wish to open, you decide on the rules that will apply for the growth in that account. So when you play cards, you need to know what game you're playing, so you know the rules. It's the same thing. So if you choose to open a tax-free savings account, you're telling the government that it will be the tax-free savings account rules that will apply there. If you open an RRSP, it will be the RRSP rule, and if the 2 are full and you eventually go to door 5, it will be the regular investment rules that will apply. So that is a comment that's important to make. So we've decided to open two accounts. They're both empty. We take your 10,000 from your checking and we deposit it into your RRSP. And what you've just done, if you've basically told the government, look, I don't need this $10,000. It's been sleeping in my checking account and I don't want to pay income tax on it. I want this to be a salary for the future. I don't need it right now. I'm going to put the entire amount into my RRSP. I don't want to pay tax on that $10,000 this year. I'll pay tax when I withdraw it down the road. And what's going to happen to you is this. Your employer has been collecting money and sending it to the government for your income tax. The employer has no choice. It's mandatory. And this was based on your current salary. But if you're going to make a $10,000 contribution to your RRSP, you've paid taxes for this salary, but now we've subtracted 10 to it. So when you file your income tax return, you will have to pay income tax on this amount, which is likely to produce a tax return for you because your employer has sent too much money to CRA. Employer didn't know you were going to make an RRSP contribution. So this will generate an income tax return for you. And what you do with that money, when you get it, you invest it in your tax-free savings account. So this year you will have made an RRSP contribution and a tax-free savings account contribution. Very good plan. And that's it for segment number 14. See you for the next one.